When I first started, my plan was I wanted to retire at 40. I want to make $1,000 a month and retire at 40. That was my plan. And I quickly learned that that was a really low objective. What was possible was a lot more than that. But I wasn't prepared to see that type of equity increase. When I started making a lot of money, it's like a drug. And it makes you want to do more and more, and you throw that in with you didn't care about risk, because I didn't. It hurt me. And I would see these huge gains and then huge drawdowns. So while I'd have really big run up and I'd have a roller coaster drop, and it would just put me back in that I got to go back and spend more time in the charts. And who was suffering? My family. My children didn't get to see their father that much. My wife didn't get to see me as much as her husband. And I missed out on a lot. And seeing a couple photographs is not the same as being there to cheer your kid on when he's up there and he hits his first home run. I missed that. When his basketball team wins and he made that shot right before the last bell, I missed that. But hey, I made money on lean hogs. It doesn't measure up. Stop buying retail logic and tools. You just don't want to be filling your head up with all of this poor thinking, okay? Because that's exactly what it is. Everything that you learn in retail books and courses is diametrically opposed to how the actual markets work. So stop wasting money on books. And I've purchased either by electronic format or actual hard copy books. I have over 2,000 of them. And I won't buy another book ever again. And I wish I would have stopped the second year that I started buying them. I had in my mind I was going to buy as many books as I could, because somebody out there is going to have the secret. And I can tell you, after reading over 2,000 books, none of them did. And there's some real classics in there. And the ones that I do like, I've mentioned before. And I know some of you are new and you want to know what they are. For money management, I like everything from Ralph Vince and Ryan Jones. They do a lot of Optimal F and Kelly Criterion. It's a little bit advanced. I'm not saying that everyone that first starts trading should mess with that, because it's meant to run your account up pretty quick, and you're not going to be prepared for that. And I wasn't either. That's why I couldn't make it work right away. So I had to learn a lot about myself and then tune it for me. How I Made $1 Million Trading Commodities Last Year. It's a 1970s book from Larry Williams. That book still is relevant today. Not every little thing in there is, but the majority of that book is. That was the real first inspiration for me to see how smart money operates in the marketplace. And then that was my pursuit for the rest of my life. I was going to crack these markets. So that, Trading for a Living by Alexander Elder, Market Wizards 1 and 2, just for inspiration, and Street Smarts by Linda Rasch and Larry Connors. That's it. Now, if you want to know what to do the opposite of, John Murphy's Technical Analysis of Financial Markets book, that's the Retail Trader's Bible. I always recommend that one, simply because you want to learn how to do the opposite of everything that's being taught in that book. And if you do that, you're going to quickly see how charts are really, really fun to watch then. Because it's such a high degree of percentage of failing that it's more likely, if you just fade those moves, you'll probably see the chart work in your favor. Avoid looking for hot hand gurus. I did this a lot on America Online. I chased everybody. If they had a service, I was trying it out, at least for, well, back then they would do it by the week. Now everything's by a month. And everything was, at the time, a newsletter or a phone number that you had to call and pay a couple dollars a minute or whatever, and they would tell you what they were trading. And I never made money with that stuff. Even Larry Williams, not to be disrespectful towards him, but I, at one time, was paying for his hotline. And you would just call him up, and he would have a recording, and it was basically what he was going to do with the bond market and with the S&P market. And I did those trades, and I lost money. And again, I'm not saying that he's not a profitable trader. I'm not saying he's not a good trader. I'm not saying he's not a good teacher. I'm just saying my personal experience doing that, I lost money on every single trade. So avoid looking for hot hand gurus. This is the reason why I don't hold people's hands. I don't say, this is what we're going to do. Buy here, sell here, stop. I don't do that, because all that does is create codependence. And you don't want to be a codependent trader. You want to be an independent thinking trader. Become your own signal generator. The big thing is always, as a new trader, you want to find someone that's good. You don't want to find a mentor. You want to find someone that's going to tell you what they're doing and making money so you can copy them. And I fell victim to that too. I didn't want to trust my own analysis. I got lazy in thinking, well, I really just want to make a lot of money, so if I can find someone that's really good, I'll just copy them. And everything they do, I'm going to take the trades. Since they're successful, even if I take a couple losses here and there, I'm just going to stick with it. So what am I really saying there? I'm saying that I'm going to use them as my system, and I'm accepting losses. I know they're probably going to come, but I'm holding out that they're going to have more wins than losses. Now, doesn't that make sense if you applied it to your own strategy? But when you, as a new trader, start, you don't want to accept losses. That's not acceptable. But when you justify your spending, when you buy other people's signals, it's somehow brought into the reasoning part of the decision making that it's something that's acceptable. Losing trades, it's acceptable until you take that first loss, and then you're not subscribing anymore. You go back to looking for another hot hand guru. Be willing to lose, and lose a lot early on. It's part of it. You don't know what you're doing, and no book, no course, even me, if I sat with you every single day for a month, you would still take losses. You would lose. It's unavoidable. But early on, when you are developing, you're going to be wrong a lot. And this is the reason why I tell people, do not trade with live funds until you know exactly what you're doing and you understand yourself. And that may be longer than 6 months. It may be longer than a year. For some of you, it might be 2, 3, 4 years, like a college degree. And some of you aren't prepared for that. And there's no shame in you saying, you know what, this ain't for me. That's good. That means you're not going to lose money. That means you're not going to have imbalances in your life. It means that you're not going to hurt yourself, both financially and psychologically. Because I did that. I caused physical problems with an eating disorder. I developed agoraphobia, which was a fear of being around other people, because I didn't want them to find out how bad I was losing. And I wish I could go back in time and tell myself, losing is normal. It's acceptable. It's part of the business transactions. In this industry, you're going to have losses. Control them. Over time, you're going to make more money than you lose. I didn't think that way when I first started. I was trying to avoid losing altogether. And then every single loss was a paramount event. Like, it was huge. It was elevated to some grandiose, painful, just terrible thing that I had been enduring. When it's just, I did it wrong. Simple. You made a mistake, Michael. And you're going to make lots of them. 27 years from now, you're going to have so many losing trades, you're going to look back and say, you know what? It didn't kill me. So be willing to lose a lot early on in your development. That's why you want to do it on paper. That's why you want to do it on demo. Because you need to see what it feels like to be wrong a lot and not have the money taken from you. And then correct those problems before you put real money at work. Stay away from social media drains. Well, in this age, we have a lot of social media, but back when I first started, November 5th, 1992, social media was just starting up with message boards, or bulletin boards they call them. So it's kind of like Twitter, or, not so much Instagram, but basically like Twitter. People would just communicate with open emails, basically. The format was whatever you would look at and see that would be sent by way of an email. It would just be a open source where people could see what everybody was doing. A message board, basically. And I would get my feelings hurt back then because someone would say, that's a stupid idea what you're doing. And then when I was doing it right, everybody was like, man, you are a rock star. I'm taking that trade. And I was like, yeah, I know I'm making money now because he or she thinks it's a good trade. Man, that's stupid. That was dumb. I let other people back then influence my decisions or change the level of expectation I had on the trade. Because if they said, man, that's a good idea, I think it's going to go to 1150 when I was looking at like 1080. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, they're probably right. And I would change my trade to what they were saying because, man, I don't want them to be right and me miss out on that extra profit. You see what that trap disc did? It took my trade away from me, and now I took their trade. Who's in control there? It wasn't me. I let go of the wheel. Don't join trading clubs. Okay? That means circles where everyone has the hive mentality. Because you need to discover who you are as a trader. And it's very, I guess, wasteful for your time. And it stunts your growth if you start going into a group that has, well, this is the only way of trading, and this is all we do around here. Because what you're trying to do is be part of that clique, okay? You're trying to take on the hive mentality, and it may not be suited for you. But if you waste more time and, unfortunately, money, you don't want to discover that you've been wasting your time and money, okay? So you want to be solo. Trading is a solo sport. It's not a team sport. No matter how good your guru or mentor is, if you're doing everything they say, you aren't in control. You're growing codependent. Don't subscribe to alerts. That gets back to signals. You want to be the source or generation of the trade ideas. That way, when you're wrong, you're forced to assume the responsibility. You can't say, well, I just listened to that person. They were wrong. They suck. Well, what are you going to do about it? Well, I'm going to find somebody else. That's not responsible. That's gambling. You're going to another slot machine at another casino. That's all that is. Versus, I want to learn how to play cards and manage my risk, not bet too big, and just be steady Eddie at the table. You want to be the generating source of the signals. Don't subscribe to someone else because you have no idea what got them into the trade. You don't know what influences are being imposed on them. Maybe they had a bad day. Maybe they had just recently had a spat with their spouse and they feel like they have to feel good, empowered. Man, I'm gonna go out there and just tell everybody to buy S&P tomorrow at the open. And if I'm right, I'll feel good. I'll feel better about this whole thing. Because they're human too. Do you want to be subscribing to someone that's like that? You don't know if that's what's going on. They're not going to come out and say, yeah, this trade worked out, but let me tell you what really was going on. My wife told me I was a bum. I spend too much time in front of these charts and I ain't spent any time with the kids. And I ain't walked a dog in 6 months. But I knew if I got this right, I'd feel stronger about myself. That never happens, folks. That never happens. Never subscribe to other people's alerts. Don't count other people's money. That's what's popular right now. Everyone wants to know how much money someone else has. Instagram, what cars do they drive? What houses do they live in? Where are they having their vacation? What do they wear? What kind of shoes they have on? Do they wear socks? What kind of underwear do they have? What jewelry do they have? Come on. All that stuff is a waste. It's a waste. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of money. And you don't need all those things. If you're trading to do that, you're never going to get there. And I want to repeat that. If you are trading to live like that, you're never going to get there. Because you're looking at money and you're not looking at the process that's involved that would eventually lead to profitability. So you're chasing that carrot. That little piece of candy that's dangled in front of a child. You may be a stranger, but if you dangle that candy in front of a child, what's the child going to do? Reach out for that candy. And that's what all these people do. They dangle all this lavish toys and lifestyle materialism. All of that is fluff. I've never done those types of things. And it's important to understand that the reason why I don't do it, it's not because of lack of it, because I have all those things. But it doesn't do anything to make you a better trader. It doesn't make you a better student. And it will not, in any capacity, motivate you. And then that translates into a greater skill set that's derived because you saw that. It doesn't work like that. But how many people fall victim to that? Everyone. Everyone. The first course I bought from Ken Roberts, that's all he talked about. You want to go on vacations? You want to have enough money to quit your job? You want to buy a yacht? You want to live in a mansion? That's what was sold to me. And I bought that course. And in one trade, the very first trade, I lost 50% of what I put in. Well, I can tell you that was never said in the book. That didn't get talked about at all. It just said, well, you can take some losses, but you don't want your losses to be too big. Okay. But what happens if it is? Because options are a little bit different animal. And I found out the hard way. Don't be enticed by other people's money. Don't count other people's money. Don't ask them what they make. Because you can't spend their money.